Let's go. Let me share. Okay. All right. Share. Feel free to ask any questions. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Toda.
All right. And also to make sure you keep your device on mute until you have a question to ask, raise your hand. And if I don't see your hand, just kind of, say, hey, I have a question. Because sometimes I can't see if there's a hand. I don't know why, but Zoom doesn't allow me to see it all the time. So, I apologize in advance if I'm not able to see your hand. Also, too, I've went back and looked at some of the recordings that I've made, and there's been answers to the questions that I've asked, and I don't know why I wasn't able to hear them. So I'd like to apologize to you if you have given an answer to a question and I didn't respond to it. And more specifically, I think you, Dr. Red, when I asked what is the Most High looking for, and you had used the answer resiliency, but when I went back, I didn't hear it when you said it. So I do apologize that I wasn't able to respond to that, because that is true. Our Father has a lot of resiliency. Praise be to the living Elohim. What I have up here today, we're going to go over some information about the family, and what we found in our Torah portion this week, which is called Wayaki. Okay, and Wayaki means "and he lived." I did a presentation for you some time ago, probably like earlier in the year, and it was dealing with the sons of Israel and some of their character traits. And instead of building upon another presentation, I said, well, the information is already here. I don't have to do double duty again. I can go directly to it. In context, I wanted to show you that the three sons that were in question this week in our Torah portion, who had a negative report, because the father, Yaakov, was at his end, and he decided that, it's time for me to bless my sons. He's already blessed Ephraim, and he already blessed Manasseh, and he already blessed Joseph. But then he calls his other sons in to give them, their blessing, and tell them exactly what their lives are going to be in the latter times, not the end of days, but in the latter times, in the following days of their lives, and what they're going to end up being and what they're going to develop into. So I have some notes here. I'm going to try to briefly go over these three sons in particular, or four of them. And it takes a lot of time, okay? But I just want to just touch on a little bit, because what I really want to talk about today is about the seed, about what our Akarith Hamayim is, what our latter days are going to be, and what they are today for us. So I want the Torah portion to be relative to what we're experiencing today and what we can look forward to. Just like our father Yaakov told his sons what is going to be, he's letting them know, not only for you, but also to your descendants. Your descendants are going to have some experiences, and it really depends on how you respond, how they're going to respond, because things are transmitted from generation to generation. All right. So looking at this, I'm going to go to the south. The first son that we're going to talk about right quick, briefly, is Reuben. And I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I want you to participate, because this is the purpose of learning the Torah. Because if you understand the Torah and the instructions, when it comes down for the Most High to give us the instructions about how we should live, you would understand why he's giving us these instructions. So off the top, right now, in this southern part of the wilderness, we had these two brothers together. Okay, they are sons of Yaakov, and they're from their mother Leah. Reuben is the firstborn. Shimon is the secondborn. Okay, and so in our Torah portion this week, the father begins off talking to Reuben, and somebody tell me, what did he say to him?
He mentioned about him laying with his wife. He hadn't forgiven him for that.
Exactly. Interesting. Thank you for that. Interesting is that I would say that he reminded him, he gave him a reminder about who he is. Okay. And who he is what's important, right? Who you really are. And not only who you are, but what you are. Okay. And so what you are and who you are the, the principal things. So what we understand about Reuben is that his father said that he was unstable. He's unstable like what? What element did he use?
Water.
The water. So we got to, okay, so he mentions water. Okay. So water can move in any direction. And generally, when water is coming somewhere or going somewhere, it literally doesn't have any boundaries. Okay. So it doesn't have no boundaries. Okay. Doesn't have no boundaries. Once it goes past a certain point, it keeps going. When water has it in its characteristics, it likes to travel. Okay. So it's moving, it's traveling. So when water's traveling, it's going to go as far as it needs to go. And it's just going to keep going. And, according to the way that everything is working, it travels downward. Okay. It tries to find the lowest point. So this is what the father's letting them know. Like, okay, what you did when you went to go sleep with one of my concubines, what you did is you went the lowest you possibly could. That's who you are. Okay. You're going to go find the lowest point. And that's basically what he is. And so what we understand about Reuben is that he's not fit. He's not fit to what?
Lead.
There you go. He's not fit to lead. He's not fit to lead the family. And it's because he lacks what you would call cohesion. When water gets inside of something, it just takes form of whatever it goes into. So whatever situation, this is what the Most High wants us to understand about this in particular family member. He's not some opposite guy. He's part of your DNA. Okay. So with water takes form of anything it gets into. So in any given situation, it just adapts to whatever that is. It conforms to that. So it doesn't have any cohesion. And because it doesn't have any cohesion, it's not good for the family, because the family needs cohesion. What the family needs is to understand its limits. Okay. And so with Reuben, he has this instability. Okay. And his drive and his desires are unstoppable. That's what led him. And he didn't sleep on one of his father's beds. What it says there is that he was going on his couches. So it wasn't a one-time event for him. It wasn't him just, I got away with it. He just kept going on and on and on and on. That's a desire. So the Most High is using him to let us understand what this type of character is. What is this type of characteristic and why it's not good? The Most High wants us to understand that, this water, when it does get foamy and when it does start going, there's nothing you can do to stop it. It's like a storm, okay? And because of that, you can't have that as someone with a character trait to be a leader in the family. They can't be, okay? So that's what he wanted to show us about Reuben. And feel free to ask any questions, okay? And his name means to see a son, okay? That's what his name means, to see a son. So he's the son that the Most High wants us to understand. Like, this is not just something what Reuben had did, but this is something that's going on within the community as we speak today. Okay. Shimon, what do you remember about Shimon?
Violence.
Thank you. Violence. Okay. Yah said that these people, them, and who's their counterpart? Who's joined with them?
Lewi.
Lewi. Lewi means to join. I should have wrote that a little bit clearer. Forgive me. Lewi. Lewi. Lewi means to join. Okay. So he says that, these two individuals right here, I don't want them to be together because they're a certain way. They enjoy violence. Okay. They actually take pleasure in hurting people. Okay. That's what they do. They maim animals for fun. They went overboard when their sister got raped. They overreacted. And what they did was, according to what we understand about them, they were the ones, these two individuals, they were the ones who came up with a plan for circumcision. Those two, they came up with the plan. That's why they're the ones who went in to execute the judgment, because they're the ones who got them off guard. So what they did was they literally used what you would call agreeable terms. They got these people to go into an agreement with them when the whole time they were knowing what they were going to do to them. Okay. So the Most High is letting us know, like, listen, these in particular people are not good and they're unfit for leadership because they really pose what you will call a threat. Okay. That's what I got from them. Violence poses a threat to the family. Violence is a threat. What's the first thing that their father said after they did what they did? He said, the nations and the people around us are all going to come upon me. I'm done. I'm done because of this person and because of this one. These two individuals. And then he said that my counsel won't be around them. I don't want them to be next to each other. And we see this when the Most High had separated Lewi from Shimon. They're nowhere together. The Most High gave him no inheritance. He actually gets no inheritance in the land in order to fulfill what their father said. Okay? Because violence don't have a place inside of the community. Violence doesn't have a place inside the family. The violence there, of course, is called kamas. And kamas means to be superheated. And it means that, of course, they are what you will call uncontrollable. They share this idea of being uncontrollable, okay, with their brother Reuven. He was uncontrollable in his sensual desires, and he was uncontrollable. He couldn't stop himself, okay? They're like water, okay? There, on the other hand, has to do with being uncontrollable. This word right here, kamas, has to do with heat, and it has to do with fire. Okay, so on one sense, you got Reuven with the water is uncontrollable, and then you have these guys with the fire and the heat, which is their violence, which is uncontrollable, and these are not beneficial for the family, and then neither is it beneficial for them themselves. And so their father took action and said, look, you guys can't be around each other. Okay, he isolated them from one another because of the threat that they posed to the family. He actually cursed their violence. He cursed it, and he actually said to them that, I got my notes here, that, where is it at? They're not going to, they're going to pose a threat. That's what they're going to do. Okay. So anyone who's interested in leadership, understand you can learn from these examples, okay, that these in particular people that are in the family of Yaakov have some problems. And these problems didn't start when they were adults. As a matter of fact, a lot of them were in their upper, their father's 147. So Reuven and them had to be in their 60s or 70s. Okay, so he's letting them know what it is. Okay, and with Yehuda, I don't have that part up here, his name here, but you and I both know what his name means. He actually was the one who was chosen. Okay, Yehuda was chosen. So we know that we have the first son, the second son, and Lewi is the third son, and then we have Yehuda, which is the fourth son. Yehuda was chosen to be the leader. He was chosen to be the leader. He wanted him to be the leadership in the family. Okay. And it's because Yehuda had what they would call his self-awareness. He was able to bring people together, like you saw when he came to Yosef and said he was going to defend Binyamin. We also see that he was able to convince his father that, hey, listen, I I can go ahead and I'll vow for him. I'll plead and I'll pledge my life to be a servant on his behalf. So over time, what he developed into was a great leader, which brings us to the question of, if you had all these different qualities and all this great leadership and all this development as a leader, then what happened to our people? What happened to us as a nation? Right? Because his father is telling him, well, this is what you're going to be. Your brothers are going to praise you. They're going to bow down to you. And more specifically, everything that he mentions to them, some of these sons, he only mentions to them like one line, like you're going to be a wolf, or you're going to be like a snake, and you're going to be a troop, and you're going to dwell here, and all that. And a lot of that had to do with the land. So all of the blessings that he's giving to them had to appertain to the land, okay, and what they were going to be in the land. Now I want to move over. Any questions before I move on? Because I have a great deal of information to go over in my other presentation. Anyone want to make any remarks or anything before I go on? All right, so here we are. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right. So what we've been talking about is Wayeki, okay? And it has to do with life. Oh, wait a minute. Where is it at? Here you go. What's going on? Something's going on. Hold on for a moment, you guys. Let me get back here. Can you see my screen? Yes? Because it keeps saying that my screen is paused. I don't know what the deal is. It might be their internet. Can you guys see it?
It shifted to the left to a smaller screen.
Yeah, we can see half your screen. Now,
Okay. You can see me now, right? So let's go.
yeah.
Let me double check. I want you to be able to see it. Okay, so let's go back here. And let's go here. All right. Now, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So this week we've been, oh my goodness. I'll tell you what, let's get out of here. Sorry for the interruption. It breaks everything. Can you see the screen? Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. My apologies. All right, so this whole week, we've been dealing with this idea of what they were called Hazira. We've been dealing with life. We've been dealing with the seed. That's been the whole teaching. It's about life, because that's what he's talking about. This Kai right here is the life, right? So we're talking about a continuation of the Hazira, okay? The Zera is in Hebrew seed, okay? And Ha means the seed or the seed. So the seed is what we're talking about, which has to do with life. It's very important for us to understand that when their father was talking to them in chapter number 49, he's given them a heads up about what life is going to be for them, okay? He's going to tell them what their lives are going to be like and what their experiences are going to be, okay? Because the goal is to continue the seed. And because of Reuben, the way he wasn't fit to lead. Because if he was to lead the family would have been really out of control, okay? Shimon and Levi were not fit because they were too violent. So he had to separate them. Yehuda was found to be the one that he chose to do that. And it has to do with the praise of the Most High, but also has to do with his superiority and the way that he was thinking and his character, okay? So the character of the seed is very, very important. And I believe that's what the Torah portion is about. It's about life and how we can continue that. Okay. In the Torah portion this week, it said that then Yaakov called for his sons and he said, gather yourselves together and I will tell you what will happen to you in the Akarith Hamayim. The Akarith Hamayim means in the latter days. That's what the Akarith means. Okay. And we're going to go over that just a little bit about what this actually word means, but it means the last days or the latter days and the time to come. So then he says this again, this is a command. He said, assemble yourselves. And what's interesting here is he says, and listen. And then he says, you sons of Yaakov. And then he says, pay attention, to Yisrael. So he identifies himself both as Yaakov and Yisrael, which is interesting. And he also uses, they have here in English, listen, and they have pay attention. But the word there, again, is our famous word called, what word is that?
Shema.
Shema. Okay. So I want you to listen. I want you to pay attention. Okay. And those were commands. All right. So I want the sons of Yaakov to Shema. And I want the sons of Yisrael, of your father Yisrael, to Shema. Okay. Shema is always a big part of what we need to do, which is to listen, which is to obey, which is to give ear and to take heed. All of us here today, in one way or another, connected to this man, Yaakov, and known as Yisrael. I believe it's important for us to understand and get a little bit more in depth about Yaakov. Okay. So let's deal with Yaakov first. Okay. We're going to deal with Yaakov and listen to Shema to Yaakov. There's something about Yaakov we need to understand. They understood, or they've seen with their own eyes, and they're the ones who've caused a lot of discomfort for their father. They didn't get this chance to literally see what their uncle Esau did to them. They saw what their grandfather Lavan had did, partially some of them, because a lot of them were children, and of course it was their family. But Yaakov, anytime they're in the Torah is mentioned, Yaakov's name is dealing with these ideas of hostility, ill treatment, to be exploited, to be oppressed, to be treated with cruelty, okay, and to be taken advantage of, okay, and for someone else to benefit from your work, okay, and also too, there's always a lot of hostility, right, that has to, when someone's dealing with Yaakov, this is how they've been dealing with him. And he understands this. He's 147 years old. So now at the end of his life, he says, okay, I'm going to tell my sons what their futures are. And I'm going to tell them what it is. And I'm going to tell them what it's going to be me. Because they are Yisrael. So I need to tell them what it's going to be like to be me. Okay. So when I told Reuven about his life, I wasn't trying to hurt my son. I was literally telling him the truth. And I think all of us need to understand the Most High is going to tell us the truth, because the truth is literally what we need as a foundation. When we look at the word truth, it comes from that root word. I got to find something that's a lot better for where you can literally see this, because it's hard to see it. Let me just use here. Yeah. So the root for truth is these two letters here called men. Okay, M-E-N, okay? And so men has to do with, I told you earlier this week, with kind. It's a species, okay? And it has to do with blood, and it has to do with a continuation. So it means water, meaning, liquid, right, which is blood. And then the noon right here has to do with the seed. And this right here has to do with fluid, which could be blood. And so it's a continuation of the blood. The blood continues through the seed. So I'm letting you know off the top, when he told Yosef that when you talk to me and you tell me something, he said, I need you to swear to me. And he said, I swear. Or he says, will you, make sure you take my body back to Canaan and bury me there. And he says, then Joseph said, yeah, I will. Then he said, no, swear to me that you will. Because sometimes we can be saying some things, but what we say has to be backed up with a promise. Okay, so what he's telling us right here is that, listen, I'm going to let you know what it's going to be for you. Okay, he told him to swear to him in truth. Yah is telling us, like, hey, this is the truth about who you are. Okay, this is the truth. Okay. We know that Joseph was still a servant while he was under Pharaoh's leadership. He still had to ask for permission. Okay. And in his own way, he still was being oppressed. He couldn't make decisions without the approval of someone else. Okay. Even though he was living a high life, even though he was in nobility, even though he had money, all those different types of things, he was still in this position. Okay. And believe me, trust me, there may not have been no verbal assaults against him because of the position he was holding, but still there was feelings of this hostility and these sorts of things. But also too, they didn't like the Hebrew people. All right. So, but these ideas behind Yaakov is what you and I are going to experience. And this is what brought us to the truth of who we are, is that we're an oppressed people. We are people who are being constantly pursued and persecuted. We are literally the people that everyone hates. Okay. And you don't get treated well, right? You don't get fair treatment. And also too, you're taken advantage of. It's just the truth. There's no other way around it. If you look at the history of our people, you would find out that this is the case. And this is not to say that this doesn't happen to anyone else. The reason why this is happening to us is because the Most High wants it to happen. I know you didn't like that, but it's the truth. Okay. So when we talk about Yaakov, we're talking about, when he mentions Yaakov, he's talking about oppression, persecution, hostility, ill treatment, and exploitation. And this is the reason why we don't need this. Okay. Within our own family, because you're already getting it from the outside. That's why he's separated Israel from all other peoples. And this is the reason why he's trying to clean house by giving us the Torah to deal with these ideas of oppression, persecution, hostility, ill treatment, and exploitation, cruelty, and all these different types of things. So the Torah governs us from that. When we talk about Yisrael, when anytime you hear the name of Yisrael, you're talking about someone who's triumphant. Someone who is victorious, someone who is successful, someone who is a winner. I told you earlier this week that you and I are winners, and we're going to be winners, okay? And also, too, we have to have this idea of conquering, okay? You're triumphant over your enemies. You're very successful in everything you put your hands to. You're supposed to be victorious, and you're supposed to win. You don't supposed to lose, okay? Not Yisrael. Yisrael is not a loser. If you look at the name, he had strength and he overcame and he prevailed with that man, okay? And because of that, he has power with El because of that, okay? Conquering. So you have to take these ideas. When we talk about there were Yisrael, he's letting them know, listen to you sons of Yisrael. I want you to know that this is the goal. This is the goal, okay? The other ones are the circumstances that you're going to be faced with, and those are the things that you're going to have to overcome. Okay, you're going to have to win, and you're going to have to fight, because if you don't fight, and I need you to hear me and hear me well, then you will not continue the seed, which is the blessing. You're the blessed people. Okay, so when your numbers are increased and things are going well with you, you're succeeding. Okay, and that's where we're looking at. So when you hear Yaakov, understand what that means from now on: sorrow, misery, oppression. When you hear Yisrael, it's talking about triumphant, successful, victorious, winner, always conquering, winning every battle. The latter days is what's in question, because his father said, or their father said to them, this is what's going to happen to you in the Akarith Hamayim. That word Akar basically means this, okay? The Ket is a wall. The Resh is the head, okay, of a man, okay? So the man, right, you got the wall and the man. That means, and the wall has this idea of being outside. So a car, C-H-A-R, which you got the C-H right here, and you got the R right here, means the man outside. The man outside is the one who's going to get hit with the sun. Okay, he's going to get hit with the sun, and it's going to be hot. Okay, that's what it means. So the akarith, and it means after. Okay, so these things are going to happen. It means something that's going to come after, something that's later. Okay, that's why they call it latter, but it's literally later or latter, the latter days. Okay, so he's giving information about what's going to happen. As I've taught before, a car actually has to do with this idea too of judgment. because when the man is outside, he's getting hit by the sun. The Most High says this is what he's going to use in order to judge humanity, because he says the Son of Righteousness shall rise upon you with healing in its wings. Okay, so the Akarith Hamayim has to do with the latter days, the days of judgment. Okay, during this time of judgment, the Most High wants us to understand what's going to happen to the servant. Okay, what's going to happen to his servant. I want to introduce you to Isaiah chapter number 53. Okay, that's what we're going to be going over today in detail. We're going to go verse by verse so we can dispel this idea that there's someone else, and we can dispel this idea about there being someone else, another servant who died and who suffered. I'm going to prove to you today. I talked about it before, but I haven't really went in detail. I had little bits and pieces. But today, I think it's appropriate that we go over who this in particular servant is and how it relates to the suffering that he tells his sons that they're going to go through. Okay. So far, I'll just keep going back and forth and we'll see it. So here in Isaiah, Yeshayahu chapter number 52, verse number 13, is where this teaching begins. Okay. I want you to remember this. So when someone says, well, who's the suffering servant of chapter number 53? In Hebrew, there are no chapters. In Hebrew, it's a scroll. Okay, the numbers are there just so you can have a reference point. But the teaching starts with this idea of here, which you would call a stuma. Okay, and it starts right here in chapter number 52, verse number 13. So all the way from chapter number 52, verse number 13, all the way through chapter number 53, and I believe verse number 12. This right here is one teaching. That's one teaching. So you can't separate chapter 52, verse 13 through 15 from chapter 53 all the way through 1 through 12. They go together. Okay? Remember that. They go together. All right? So the Most High introduces this idea about his servant. He says, see, my servant will succeed. So what we just learned about Yisrael and Yaakov, who's he talking about?
Yaakov.
He's talking about both of them, but who's the one who's going to succeed? Is Yaakov the one who's in success? Or is he going to success?
Israel?
He's talking about Yisrael. Now, listen, folks, I want to show you something. I just put this on the board and I want to show you because you're here to learn. It's not a religious teaching. Yaakov calls his sons and say, listen to your father, Yaakov. And then he says, Yisrael. Right? So between Yaakov and Yisrael is what you would so there's a space right here. It's a space in time. There's a space between Yaakov and Yisrael. Yes, they're one and the same. He says, your name will be called Yisrael. I'm going to call you this when you are successful, when you have defeated, when you're victorious. You see? Because it goes along with the name. You understand? This is the family called Yaakov, right? He's the son of Yitzchak and Abraham. But Yah's letting us know that he has to transition from Yaakov to Yisrael. Because if he doesn't transition, and what it is the transition is through what? Is through time. And over time, you continue to have seed and family and people. So you have a destination. Your destination is to become Yisrael. That's your destination. You will become Yisrael when you succeed. My servant may be Yaakov in the process, but Yaakov needs to succeed. He needs to prevail. He needs to win. He needs to overcome. He can't do this unless something happens. And that's what we're going to talk about today. You see, he will be raised up. He will be exalted, highly honored. Who? My servant. Just as many were appalled at him, they were disgusted at him and shocked at him because he was so disfigured that he didn't even seem human. and simply no longer look like a man, meaning he didn't have, when it talks about looking like a man here, what it's talking about is to have the respect and the honor to be treated like someone who has their own person, like they have their own nation. Every other human being on the face of this planet is looked upon as a man. Well, Akika, please tell me, what do you mean? Are you trying to spiritualize this? No. I got a copy of the Constitution of the United States of America in my hand right now. It cost me $1.99 from Amazon. You could go on there and get it. And what you find in their articles is something very interesting. They identify anyone else who's not what you would call a white man, or any other one who's been identified as a man, is 3/5 of a human being. 3/5 of a human being. More specifically, the black man, the black woman, the black child is 3/5. You don't believe me? Go look it up. When you do the math on this, it comes out to 20% less, which means that the way that they're looked at is 80% of a human being. Why is it 20% less? Well, according, if you read the Torah, you would know what 20% is. 10% is a tithe. 20% is what you would call a penalty. You're penalized. That's what 20% in the Torah responds or corresponds to, a penalty. So basically, if you want evidence that you're not even, he doesn't even look like a man because he's not identified as 100% of a human being. That's your evidence. That's proof. You understand? So look, so now this in particular less than person, so now he will startle many nations. And because of him, who? My servant, kings will be speechless. Okay, so remember, we got kings here. For they will see what they had not been told. That not been told right there is called the Sefer, or a Sefer. And a Sefer is an accounting, which a book of accounting, like to give a record. There's a record book. There's accounting that has to happen. So what it is they're going to finally get to see something that was in the record book that they didn't have an idea about. Also, too, they're going to think about, they're going to ponder things that they have never heard. Why? Because this in particular servant is not valued. That's at 3/5, and that's being mistreated. The one who everyone's going to be a shockhead at, and has been, experiencing different things that we're going to go over today. The kings are going to give a testimony. Yah wants to share with us what the kings of the earth are going to say about his servant. Let's find out if this servant is Christ. Let's find out who this servant is, if it's somebody else. Let's look at the evidence. So far, I presented you with evidence. He says he don't even look like a man. They're appalled at him. Why? Because he's nothing to them. They don't value him because they look at him only in the eyes of him being property or a possession. That's associated with fees and taxes. You understand? I'm going to give you, I think it's the 14th Amendment, if you don't believe me. When they went to change the 14th Amendment, they didn't put in there, what article was this? Was it article number 2? Because I don't want anybody to say that I lied. Where's it at? Oh, yeah. It's article 1, section 2. Article 1, section 2 tells you about it. I'm not going to read it. But then it said that when they looked at it and they had to go ahead and have it amended, that when they amended it, it's in the 14th Amendment. You look it up, Article 1, Section 2. So now we're dealing with the kings, the leaders of the earth, because there are leaders and there's kings, okay? Listen what happens. Chapter 52:13 just told us, listen, the kings they're going to be speechless for what they're going to see. Okay, what they have never been any record of. And they're also going to be thinking about the things that they've never heard. And after they sit and they think about it, they're going to give you a message. They're going to give you their report. So remember, chapter 52, verse number 13 through 15, we just read. It continues on verse number 1 of 53. So the who here, okay, they're asking a question, who is going to believe our report, our message? Who's going to believe our message? Okay, the kings are the ones who are about to tell what they're going to tell what they've never seen. They're going to tell, and they're going to, because they've been thinking about things they've never heard. So now after they see what's going to happen to us, and after they hear what's going to happen to this servant, because Yah begins to tell us that this servant, my servant, is going to succeed. The one who's been treated this way, they're going to succeed. So when this happens, the kings of the earth are going to say, after it happens, the king of the earth is going to say, who's going to believe our report? Who's going to believe the message now that we're going to say, because now we saw something? And to whom is the arm of Yahweh revealed? A lot of people have taken this arm of Yahweh and applied it to Christ of the New Testament and said he's the arm of Yah, meaning he's the strength of Yah, because that's what an arm is. An arm is a strength of Yah in the movement of Yah and the power of Yah. So the question, there's two questions. Who's going to believe our message that we just saw with our eyes, okay? And whom is the arm of Yahweh been revealed? Who's the strength been revealed to? Well, here it is. Follow me, because you have to. The strength of Yah is this. In the same chapter, chapter number 52, before verse number 13 through 15, it tells you this. Listen, your watchmen are raising their voices and shouting for joy together, for they will what? They will see. Remember I told you your eyes and your hands and everything have a purpose? They will see before their own eyes Yahweh returning to Zion. Break out in joy, into joy, and sing together, you ruins of Yerushalayim, for Yahweh has comforted who? His people. They're going to see this. He has redeemed Yerushalayim. Why? Because Yerushalayim has been ruined. Yahweh has bared his set-apart arm. The question that the kings ask is, whom has the arm of Yahweh been revealed? Well, there's your answer. Your answer is the arm of Yahweh has been revealed in the sight of every nation. And all the ends of the earth will see the salvation of our Elohim. So in context, the arm, the set-apart arm of Yahweh is the salvation to comfort not a few people, not to comfort anybody from their sin, to bring their people back. That's when his arm is been revealed. He hasn't revealed his arm yet. He has not revealed his arm, because if his arm has been revealed, salvation would have been given. Yerushalayim would have been able to shout for joy. The ruins of Yerushalayim would have been rebuilt, and everybody would be singing for Yerushalayim. They would have saw Yah with their eyes that he returned to Zion if salvation had already happened. So for those of you who are watching live by stream and think that you're saved, you're mistaken. The arm of Yahweh, the set-apart arm of Yahweh, has not been revealed in the sight of every nation, because Yisrael has not been comforted. So, in context, the kings ask, whom has the arm of Yahweh been revealed? To the nations. Okay? Idea of the latter days. That's when it's going to happen. I will set apart my what? My great name to be regarded as set apart, as holy or kadosh, since it has been profaned in the nations. You profaned it among them. The nations will know that I am Yahweh, says the supreme master Yahweh, when? Before their eyes. I am set apart to be regarded as kadosh, set apart. For I will take you from among the nations, number one. I will gather you, number two, from all the countries, and number three, return to your own soil. So in context, when he says that they will see before their eyes in the sight of every nation, I'm going to reveal my arm, the strength of my power by doing this for you. I'm going to take you. That is your salvation. You haven't been saved. There's no mention here about no sin or nothing. You understand? That's what's going to happen. Their message is this, verse number 2. The king said, who's going to believe it? But now we got the message. This is the message that they're saying. So when you read Isaiah 53, understand that it's not anybody talking about the kings of the nations. And listen what they said. For before him, he grew up like a young plant. Well, if we started in 52:13, who's it talking about? It's talking about this in particular servant that is going to succeed. Okay. So this servant is growing up before Yahweh like a young plant. This is what they're saying, like out of a root, out of a dry ground, because guess what? They're not talking about what's going to happen. They're talking about what they've actually seen. So Isaiah 53 is talking about what they have seen. Remember it said in 52:13 through 15, that they heard things that they didn't, let me slow down. I don't want to mess this up with my excitement, because you have to be taught and I got to slow down. They said, kings will be speechless, for they will see what they had not been told. Okay, so it's about what they see. Okay, so in 53, they're actually telling what they have now seen. You see, for they will see what they have not been told. They will ponder me and they will think about the things they've never heard. And this is the reason why they're giving their message. This is the reason why they're giving their report, is because now they have seen it with their eyes. Okay, so the idea of 53 is about the salvation that Yah has shown to the kings and what he's shown to the nations. Okay, so they're saying for before him, because now they have an understanding. Before him, who the creator, he grew up like a young plant, like a young sapling, like a root out of a dry ground. He was not well formed, especially honorable. We saw him. Okay, past tense. We saw him, but his appearance did not attract us. See, so before our message, we looked at him. He wasn't attractive to us. All we thought about him, he wasn't even a whole person. He's 3/5. He was chattel. He was possessions. He was like an animal to us. We don't want nothing from him. He was an idiot. He was stupid. He was uneducated because he didn't speak our language. So we had no desire for him. You know, we're not attracted to him. We actually took him. Their report is this. They're saying people despised and avoided him. Who? This servant. A man of pains. Okay. Who? This servant. Well acquainted with illness. Who? The servant. Like someone from whom people turn their faces. He was despised, meaning baza. Okay. And baza here in the Hebrew, meaning despised, means to be something that the people look at and say, ugh. Spoiled. Ugh, get them away from him. They're nasty. We don't want to swim in it. We don't want to be in a swimming pool with them. Get them out of here. Don't let them in our places where we sit and eat. Don't let them, just like how the Egyptians treated the Hebrew people. We can't sit and eat with them. We don't want to go in the same restaurant with them. We don't want to sit down with these people. So the baza means they're spoiled, they're ruined. They're like old food and meat, old vegetables. They don't want him. And it said they didn't value him, kashav. And this word value here is an English word, but the Hebrew here is really to consider and to think about. To consider. Remember, they said that the kings would ponder the things that they've never heard, because they've never considered these people. They've never considered this servant. Okay. So we're talking about, you say, well, it's singular, it's one person. Well, when I talk about Yaakov, is Yaakov one person? Yeah. When I talk about Yisrael, he said, your name is going to be Yaakov and it's going to go to Yisrael. Is Yisrael one person? No. Yisrael is 12 tribes. You understand? So when it talks about despise, pain, illness, and being baza, and also being ruined and spoiled, and no one considers and gives them any type of consideration, right, to these individuals, is this not associated with our Father? Has this not been his life? Has this not been his journey? Yes, it has been. He's gone through a lot of pains given by others and people in his own family and people around him, okay? So let's ask the question, who is this? Who is this servant, right? Kind of let the cat out the bag. Here's what Yahweh, the Redeemer of Yisrael, his set apart one, says to the one despised, okay? So Yah tells you who the despised one is. It's in chapter number 49. The one who is despised is the Redeemer of Yisrael. This is what the set apart one says. Whom the nations detest, they hate Yisrael. The servant of tyrants. Yisrael, known as Yaakov, is a servant of tyrants. He says, when kings see you, they will stand up. Princes too will prostrate themselves, because Yahweh, who is faithful, the set apart one of Yisrael, who has chosen you. So when you go back to Isaiah 49, you'll find out that chosen you is Yisrael. You will go and find out that Yisrael is Yaakov. You will find out the Yaakov is the sons of Yisrael. You'll find it out. You'll find it out, because this is what he was trying to tell his sons, that you're going to be despised. You're going to be hated. And this is why I need you to be the way that you need to be, because we need to keep this family together. Okay? Because it's the world against you. Okay? That's what it is. Because they detest you. So get that understanding today, that you're detested. Okay? And those who are joining Israel, I got a notice for you. When you join yourself to Yisrael, understanding you're going to be hated too. They're going to despise and detest you too, because they were like, why would you go and be with a people like that? Why would you choose these people? Why would you associate yourself with a 3/5 of a human being, the people that were picking cotton for us? Why? See, they don't want you to know this. They don't want you to understand this. You know, if you speak like this, then you're racist. You hate every other race. And that's not true. The fact of the matter is, we got to learn how to love our own before we can love anyone else, period. So after we find out how to love one another and we come to become a family again, then we'll take in other people. They want to join our cause and understand that we follow the Most High. And we're not following him from a religious standpoint. We're following him based on righteousness and justice. We follow him because what he says is right. We keep his moedim because that's what he told us to do. We don't commit adultery because we should never do such a thing. It's beneath us. You understand? But that hasn't been the case to this day. Okay. Who is this person that's associated with diseases? In fact, listen what the kings had said after they saw the arm of Yahweh. In fact, it was our diseases that he bore. All the diseases that you and I got and Israel's getting today is from these nations. It's their pains. It's the pain that they put on us that we suffered. You see, if you want to make this about Christ, Christ ain't never had no diseases. He ain't never suffered no pains like they said. Well, he suffered pain on the cross and so forth and so on. They gave him vinegar to drink. He didn't feel anything. You understand? The diseases that we're bearing, okay, that we bear is from them. The pains from which he, who the servant, suffered is because of them. Yet we regard him not. They did not regard him. They did not think of him. Okay. So it says we regarded him kashav. Well, here we thought of him as being punished. We thought he deserved it. We thought since he was black that he deserves to be stricken, because in the Bible, we thought he was Ham. We said, all black people, they're cursed by God. Go look at their book in the Mormons. They think all black people were born to be cursed and they're of the devil. That's the truth. That's what they believe. People actually believe and think and consider that everything that we go through as a people being punished and stricken, we deserve. And here when it says afflicted, listen what the kings had said. He said that their affliction is not afflicted, it's a continuing of affliction by Elohim. They understood it. They understood it was their diseases, is their pains that he suffered from. Now, is this starting to make sense to you? It's not where we're saying that Christ had bore our diseases and he bore our pains and that's why he suffered. There's no mention here of any sin. You see? So what pain has he bore for the children of Israel? This other so-called God, what diseases did he bear for us? And if he did bear that, say it's true, then why are the children of Israel still bearing diseases and pains, and why are they still suffering? And why are they still being punished? And why are they still being stricken? And why are they still constantly being afflicted? If salvation has happened, it hasn't happened. Okay. So that's a part of their report. That's part of their message. The reality is this, everyone. And I want you to get something out of this. The reality is, and it's clear, is that Yahweh will strike you down with boils. Okay? That broke out on the Egyptians, tumors and skin lesions and itching, all incurable. Yahweh will strike you with insanity, blindness, and utter confusion. You will grope about at noon like a blind person groping in the dark, unable to find your way. You will be continually oppressed and robbed, and there will be no one to save you. That's found in the curses of Deuteronomy chapter number 28, which is called the book of Devarim, the words. That's the reality. The reality is that Yah has done this to us. And he's allowed us to receive these strikes and these blows and these diseases and this blindness and confusion by the hands of the nations because of what we've done to him. He says in that last part of that verse there won't be no one to save you. That word right there is called, there will be no Mashiach. There is no Mashiach. There's no Savior. Go to the Hebrew and look up for yourselves. Don't be mad. Just go look it up. Chapter 28, verse 27 through 29. There's no Savior. Not from this. And that's what our people have been lied to. You got saved, you got a Savior, so you don't supposed to be. If that's the truth, then why are you still blind? Why are you still confused? Why are people still standing on the street corner? Why are they still killing each other? Why are they continually oppressed and robbed if they've been saved? You haven't been saved. Yah's the one who strikes us. Yah says, I'll strike you. I'll strike you. But if you will not listen to me, because that's always the problem. And listen means the Shema. If you won't listen, obey, and hear all these mitzvot, and you loathe and you hate my regulations and you reject my rulings in order not to obey all my mitzvot, but break my covenant, then I, for my part, will do this to you. I will bring terror upon you, wasting disease and chronic fever to dim your sight and sap your strength. You will sow your seed for nothing because your enemies will eat the crops. Yahweh has stricken us. And the nations understood that. They understood it now. They clearly can see now because they're thinking about it. They're pondering, why has all this happened? It was true. Yah has afflicted them. So their message is not wrong. Look in verse number 5 of that same chapter. The nations are still talking. The kings are still giving a report of everything that they have never seen before, of the record book, the Sefer. But he was wounded. Who? The servant. Because of our crimes. See, the way that we used to read this is that Christ was wounded for our crimes. And in our crimes, they thought the people were saying this, that the people of Israel were declaring this. And that's not true. The kings of the earth are declaring this. So the wounds that you and I and the children of Israel are receiving, the wounds, is because of their crimes. They're committing crimes to bring upon these wounds. They're the ones who are dealing in instruments of brutality and cruelty that are causing the wounds of the people. Yah is using them, the nations, to wound us. Yah is, by their way that they live their lives. Yah is using them to crush us because of how they live their sins. They don't see nothing wrong with oppression. They see nothing wrong with violating a person's human rights. They see nothing wrong with calling a person 3/5 and calling him nothing but an animal. They see nothing wrong with putting chains around your neck and making you pick cotton all day. They see nothing wrong with hanging you from trees and celebrating and having parties after they finish doing it and making postcards and celebrating having barbecues. That's what they would call it. They see nothing wrong with taking your babies and feeding them to alligators. Gator baby. They saw nothing wrong with taking your sons and daughters and selling them and destroying your family. But who is the one behind it? Yahweh is behind it. Yahweh is the one who has moved them to do this. He's using them. So therefore, the wounds of this servant is by the crimes of these people. The crushing of these people is by the sins of these people. It says the disciplining that makes us whole fell on him. What discipline? The discipline that he's receiving, that he's wounding. He's taken all of the blunt everything. Why? Because Yahweh wants him to go through this. David, you're lying. No, I'm not. I want to show you where Yahweh is pleased to do this to him. Yahweh is pleased to have him bruised. Okay? Now listen, there's a lie, a false terminus in here that I wanted to share with you. Okay, so we'll get more to, like, you know, who's the wound and the crushed and the bruises about this servant. How, remember, it talked about he's so bruised and he's so he doesn't even look like a human being anymore because he's been bludgeoned so much. He doesn't even look like a regular person anymore. He's just a beast. Okay, he doesn't even act. These are animals. Isn't that what they call us? So we are healed. Now, this is a question. So I'll read it again. It says, but he was wounded because of our crimes. People thought that's Christ. He was crushed because of our sins. The discipline that makes us whole fell on him. And by his bruises, we are healed. This is a false stem. Okay. And I'll explain it to you. They say we are healed. Now, if you've been in my Hebrew class, we follow the text according to the way it's written. We understand there's some things that are in the past. We understand that there's some things that are in the present. And we understand that there's things that are done in the future. Okay. Not only that, we've learned that also too, you can actively do the action or it can be passive. Okay. You're the one doing the action or the action is done on you. We understand that along with person, gender, number, male, female, plural, all those sort of things. So I'm going to show you that this was deliberate. Okay. Sometimes you might hear it as, oh, well, that was just a mistranslation. No, let's call it what it is. It's false. And what is false is a lie. It's not the truth. Okay. I'm not going to tippy toe around and say, well, you know, it's just a mistranslation, because I think that's a nice way of saying that they're lying. So what's the truth about this? They said that, and by his bruises, by this servant, by his bruises, we are healed. That's what they wrote in all their English. Okay, I took a little snapshot of it. I didn't bring it up on the big screen, but I have here, and I just wanted to show you. I'll kind of make it go a little bit bigger here. Okay. All right. Now, don't worry. We're not going to read all this up here. Okay, I'm not going to read our iniquities and chastisement. Just understand we're in the right place. Our peace was upon him. Okay. And by his stripes, we are healed. That's what they wrote in English. Okay. This is false. What's in question is this. Okay. What's in question is this verb tense right here. Why is this thing doing this? That's what's in question. The V means a verb, the action, and then the fall is called a stem. Okay. It lets us know how something's operating. There's 7 stems that how something can be done. Okay. So when they wrote it in English, they wrote it in a stem that's not true. They said that we are healed. Okay. Well, we understand something. We understand that are there is not are. If it's in the fall, in which I'm going to show you in just a moment, a nafal means that the action is something that's passive. It's something that's passively done. Okay. So when we talk about passive, every word means something. Okay. You can change somebody's direction and where they're going just by changing one letter in the Hebrew language. You can change the whole thing. So let me let you see what a basic stem chart is. Okay. The text that's in question, without making it complicated, okay, as I told you, that things can be done in an active way and it can be done in a passive way, and then also they're what they call reflexive. And these are things that you should know. If you're going to read the Bible, you're going to read the text, okay? And even if you read it in English, you should use enough wisdom, okay, and prudence to go and find out how these actions were being done, okay? Is it being done in a very simple way? Is it being done in an intense way? Or is it something that's being caused, okay? So they're letting us know that there's some basic verbal stem meanings. So the verbal stem meaning that's in question is called this nafal right here. And it's in 2 different ways, okay? One is in a reflexive. And basically what a reflexive means is this. It means that you are doing the action on yourself. Okay. So in context with that text that we're reading, It says that we are being healed by him. So it's not you on you. You're not doing something. Like, to do something to yourself means you could feed yourself. You can clothe yourself. You can help yourself. You can do all kind of stuff with yourself. You could comb your hair. You could put your own shoes on. Okay. You could do those types of actions. All right. You can literally heal yourself. You know, you could do those things. That's a reflexive action. That's what they call a reflexive voice. You're the one doing the action on yourself. Okay. Active is that you are doing the action to someone or something. And you have these three ways that you can do it. You can do an action to someone in a very simple way. You know, I can, you know, feed somebody in a very simple way, right? Or I can do something in an intensive way. You know, I could do something where I can make something happen. I can cause someone to do something. Okay. So that's you doing it. You're doing it to someone or something. That's an active. The passive way of doing something is that you, or better yet, the action of the verb is being done on or to you. Okay. So for example, David fed Samuel. David is the one doing the action. Okay. So if David fed Samuel, right? Who's the action being done on? David is doing the action
to Samuel.
Samuel is the one who is receiving the action. Okay. Okay. So it wouldn't be David is, let's write it out. So I can show you. David, or let's say David, is feeding Shaul. David is doing the action. The action is feeding. I'm feeding, he's feeding Shaul. Okay. That's active, because David's the one actively doing it. Okay. If I reverse this, instead of David feeding Shaul, and if it was in a passive way, it would say Shaul blank fed by David. See, David is feeding Shaul. That's active. Passive is Shaul blank fed by David. So is or Shaul, is he right now, or he was fed by David? See, so one is and the other one is was. So actively doing something is it is. This will be your word for is in here, okay? When someone is doing something, David is doing it, okay? When something has been passively done, it was, or it were, past tense, okay? We were fed, or was, okay? So words are very important. So I say that they are not telling the truth, because they're saying, and let's use what they said. They said, we are healed. Right? That's what they said. Is that what they said? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. But I told you they're lying, because it shouldn't say we are. Because it's a nephel and it's in a passive voice, it should be we were healed. Okay? Well, why the difference, and why is this important? Because the idea behind are and were are two different time periods. If you're saying that we are healed, then you would say there's no reason now to look for any what? You don't need to be healed now because we are healed. We're done. It's done. So when someone said they gave you Christ, you would say it's already done. We're healed. By his stripes, we are healed. Isn't that what they say? Right? It
Okay.
should say we were healed. Why were? Because it would make sense for the text, because remember, these are the kings telling you about something after they saw with their eyes Yahweh's arm. They're telling us a story about something after they saw. So this is a prophecy about something that's coming. You see, they're telling you, and I'll go back and so I can make more sense of it, because I just broke it all down from a grammatical way. And I hope you don't get angry with me, but I need to have you understand that words are very important. So when it says here that, but he was wounded, okay, for our crimes. They're giving you a message and an account and a report about this servant. We were crushed. He was crushed because of our sins, because of what we did to him. The disciplining that makes us whole fell on him. And by his bruises, we are healed. No, we were healed. Because they're telling you about something in the past after they have seen what Yahweh has done. Okay? Because if you are versus were, meaning this is telling you in an active way. And that's what's false about it. It's not actively, it's passive. If you change the tone of the voice, because it's a voice, because what they're saying, and we are healed now. We're healed now. We're healed. That'll give you a different context when we're talking about we were. Because if we were healed, okay, so let me put it together for you. If the people of Yisrael, according to some people, they say that the people of Israel are the ones who are saying this. They said that they're telling Isaiah's prophesying about the people of Israel saying this, about their savior, because they're saying that the servant is the savior. So if the people are saying this, then they would say that we are healed and they don't need any additional healing. If we're saying that the kings are the one who's doing this, then they wouldn't say we are. They would say we were. And you and I know that right now that we're not healed. Or let's ask the question, are you healed from the diseases? Are you healed from your bruises?
No.
No.
So it depends on who's given the narrative. They're the ones given the narrative. And because they're the ones who are given a narrative, it cannot read. It has to read in the original Hebrew. It doesn't say this. It says we were, not we are. That changes everything. And let me give you some more information. Okay. So that's one little thing. Okay. It's not a little thing, it's a big thing. There's a word over in your right-hand corner called Rapha. And Rapha means to be healed. Okay. So listen. So I can show you that we're not healed. So we'll find out if we're the ones talking in Isaiah 53, then why is this still being said? Yirmiyahu, chapter number 30 says this, verse number 10. So don't be afraid, Yaakov, my servant, says Yahweh. See, he's the servant. Or be alarmed, Yisrael, for I will return you from far away and your offspring from their country of exile. Yaakov will again be quiet at rest and no one will make him afraid. Because remember, Yaakov is miserable, he's oppressed, he's always afraid, he's always being treated wrong. For I am with you to save you. Okay, I'm going to Hoshitika, I'm going to one who's going to save you, says Yahweh. I will finish off all the nations where I have scattered you. However, I will not finish off, but will discipline only as you deserve. I will not completely destroy you. For here is what Yahweh says. Now pay very careful attention. Your wound is past healing. Your injury, most severe. No one thinks your wound can be bandaged. You have no medicines that can heal you. Okay, so this is evidence and proof, again, to show us that the Most High has said that you can't be healed. There's no one has any medicines. There's not a doctor. There's not a person, a spiritual leader that can actually heal you from the wound. No one thinks that your wound can be healed. And that's why when the kings in chapter number 53 of Isaiah are saying, hey, he's wounded, right? And he was crushed because of our sins, and we were healed. We were healed. In context here, God says you're healed. You can't be healed. You can't be healed. So there's two things in question. What did the kings report, and what is Yahweh saying? Yahweh's report is that you have wounds, Israel, not giving you, that no one thinks you're going to be healed from. Okay. The other nations, they're going to have their wounds healed. Okay. And they're going to be healed by what I'm going to do to you. That's what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to show them what it's going to be. And because of what I'm doing to you, I'm going to give them hope. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to finish them off, but I will leave a remnant behind. I'm going to leave some of them behind to testify about what I did, because I'm going to show them who you are in their eyes. And I'm going to show them who I am by what I'm going to do for you. So no medicines can heal you. No one thinks your wound is going to be healed. So in 53, he's not talking about our wounds. The kings of the earth are talking about their wounds. Their wounds are healed, not yours. Okay. He was wounded. Why? Because Yah is the one who gave him the wound. Okay. Using the nations to wound him. Okay. So that's what the healing is. Yah says, I'll strike you. I'll strike you. We heard the strike in Deuteronomy chapter number 28. We saw the strike in Leviticus chapter number 26. And here again, listen what Yah says. O sinful nation, a people weighed down by iniquity, descendants of evildoers, immoral children, they have abandoned Yahweh, spurned the set apart one of Israel. They've turned their backs on him. Where should I strike you next as you persist in rebelling? The whole head is sick. The whole heart is diseased. From the sole of the foot to the head, there's nothing healthy, only wounds, bruises, and festering sores that haven't been dressed or bandaged or even softened up with oil. A whole nother prophet, but he tells you that I'm the one who's brought this to you. Where do I need to strike you next? I'm the one striking you. That's my point. I'm striking you. I'm the one who's causing the nations to strike you. Okay. The narrative continues. And we're in we were in 5, now we're in 6. We all, like sheep, have went astray. We have erred. We've turned each man to his own way. Yet Yahweh caused and laid on him the guilt, the awon, the twistedness, and the perversion of all of us. Again, the narrative is still being taught and conveyed by the kings. So they're talking about how they were like sheep, okay? And they erred. And to go astray means that they've erred away from the ways of the Most High, okay? You said, well, he never gave them the ways. No, he's saying that, listen, the crimes and the sins that were mentioned in verse number 5, they're saying that the stuff that we did to Israel, right, that wasn't the right way to go. We've gone off the path. We should have never treated them like this, but this is what we've done. Yah has used their sin and their crimes to achieve his goal with his people. It says each one of us, each man has turned to his own way, meaning they don't follow Yah's ways. You say, well, he never gave them the Torah, but guess what? Did not Yah say that if a land is treacherous with me, I will bring famine? There's certain expectations that the Most High have of the nations. It's like he doesn't say that you guys can free will do whatever you want. Did he not go into Nineveh and tell them that you need to change your ways? If you don't, I'm going to come in 40 days and destroy all of you. You see? So there's expectations that he had, but we've been religious and we've been taught, well, they don't have the Torah, so he has no expectations of them. So they can murder, steal, commit adultery, they can do whatever they want, and he's not supposed to say nothing. No, doesn't work like that. Okay. So when he talk about we've erred, meaning their ways that they've been doing is wrong. Each person is turned to their own way. They don't even think about the Most High. It says Yahweh has caused, meaning he laid, and that right there is called Yah caused that action to happen. And it says to encounter. Okay. We've encountered the guilt of him, meaning we're the ones who have given him this awon. Awon in Hebrew means twistedness and perversion. That's what they've caused Israel to do. That's what they've caused the servant of Yah to encounter. We've encountered perversion and twistedness because of their error. We have gone away and they have assisted us, and this is why he's judging them, because they have gone their own way. You see? And Yahweh has caused this. And that's what they're saying. Remember, just like we can't believe, like, who's this servant? You know, he was wounded and crushed and all this, and now it's because of our awon. It's because of our perversions. It's because of our transgender and homosexual agenda. It's because of what we put on television. It's because of how we think and what we are after. You see? And because of all that's laid on him. So Yisrael is the one who's taken upon all the guilt, everyone, not the Christ of the New Testament. Okay? And they call themselves sheep, which they are. They're sheep. But are they his sheep? That's the question. The next verse says this: though mistreated, he was afflicted. He did not open his mouth, like a lamb led to be slaughtered, like a sheep silent before his shearers. He did not open his mouth. Who? This servant. Because the servant is the sheep as well. He says, you have handed us over like sheep in Tehillim, Psalms 44, talking about Yisrael. You've handed us over like sheep to be eaten and to be scattered, us among the nations. You sell your people who are like sheep for repentance. You don't even profit on the sale. They're talking to Yah. You make us an object for our neighbors to mock, one who is scorned in derision to those around us. They're always mocking us. You make us a byword among the nations. Why? Because you're not a man. It's because you're 3/5. You know, because you don't even have an identification. You don't even have an identity. They don't even call you what you are. You're not even a nation in their eyes. You're nothing. They jeer at you. They laugh at you. And they laugh at us and they're shaking their heads. Who? The nations. The ones who detest you. And guess who handed us over? Yahweh. And what's the understanding? Because remember, it's about the latter days. Yes. Yah says this in Yechezkel, Ezekiel. Yes, I will pasture my sheep. I will let them rest, says the Supreme Master Yahweh. I will seek the lost, bring back the outcast, bandage the broken, and strengthen the sick. But the fat and the strong I will destroy. What? The other sheep. I will feed them with judgment. Okay? So, as you can see, the theme hasn't changed. Lost, outcast, broken, and sick. That's who we are. Because Yahweh, and you have a wound. You have a wound. The Yah says that no one thinks can ever be healed. But I want you to listen carefully. Listen very carefully what's being said. In the next verse of Isaiah 53. He has taken from prison and from judgment. Okay, he was taken from prison and from judgment. And who shall declare his generation? Meaning, how is his seed going to continue? Now, if this is Christ, then why is it they're asking this question? Who's talking? Who's giving this report?
Kings.
The kings of the earth. They're asking the question, who? He was taken from the prison, from judgment. Who shall declare his generation? That means, how is he going to continue his family? For he was cut off from the land of the living, for the transgressions of my people he was stricken. I have there false. It's false. Listen to what they said. He was cut off out of the land of the living for the transgression, which is the twistedness and the perversion of my people. Okay. He was stricken. They're saying he was stricken. Why? For the transgression. Like, said Christ died on the cross for you. Well, here it is. The transgression right there is the twistedness and the perversion. But it says, and he was singular. Third person, masculine, singular. That's false. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to show it to you. It's not that he was. The original Hebrew says this.
They were.
Okay. I got on one side, I have what you would call the Bible Hub right here. That's Bible Hub. And over here, I got the Blue Letter Bible. Okay, you can check these sources out. Check it out for yourself. Write it down, Isaiah 53, verse number 8. Okay. It says, for he was cut off from the land, the Me'aretz of the Kayim of the living. Okay. The Mipesha, which means the transgression, or it should be from rebellion, is rebellion. It's not just transgression. This word right here, Pesha, means to be a rebel. Okay. It's a rebel, rebellion of my people. All right. And he was Negai, he was stricken. Okay. And it says, and he was stricken. He was stricken. On the bottom right here, they tell you that this is a preposition, and it has this here of what they call a 3MP. What does 3MP mean?
Third person, masculine, plural.
Third person, masculine, plural. Excellent. So if it was 3MS, it was third person, masculine, singular. So they have put in here he to say for Lamo, but Lamo doesn't mean he. Lamo means them. They were stricken. They were stricken because of my people's rebellion. You see, we don't like to think that other people are rebelling against the Most High, and they are. The nations are rebelling against Most High. Go over to this side of the screen right here. The mo right here tells you that it's a suffix. It's something that's put on the end of a word. It's a pronominal. Okay. And it's in a third person, masculine, plural. That's what this is. You understand? So they're not telling you the truth. They're lying to you. They're telling you he because they want that he to be who?
JC.
They want to be JC. So they're all working together to make sure that your text reads he was stricken. And it's not he, it's them. They were stricken because of the rebellion of the kings. Okay? Because if the kings were following the Most High and they were following his ways, would they treat his servant this way? No, they wouldn't. You see? That's the truth. Mistranslations. So I've already showed you several, but here's another one in the same chapter. And he made his grave with the wicked. Talking about this servant. And with the rich in his death. Because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Okay. Let's deal with this fact about this death. When you think about death, they're thinking about his death, right? He made his death because he had done no violence. So is it true? No, it's not true. The truth is what's written in the script in the Hebrew. The truth is they said at his death. Well, look underneath. What do you see? Let me break it down for you. This one word, bamatha, okay, because that's what's called a bamotha, bamotha. Bamotha is broken down. There's three different elements to it. You have a preposition, you have the noun, and then you have the person. Okay, so they tell us what the noun is, they're going to tell us who the person is, and they're going to tell us what the preposition is. So the preposition in this word right here, what they call prep B, preposition, which is the bet, is this letter right here. That's it. Okay. So it means at or in, because the bet means in or at or with. Okay. Very simple. The next word here is this word right here. Okay, which would be moth. And moth means death. Okay. But there's something interesting about that now. Okay. This little mark right here, that yod right there, makes the one singular death into plural. The noun is a plural. It's not in one death, but it's actually supposed to be read deaths, plural, not one death. Okay. So when it talks about, it shouldn't say his death as meaning one death, like on the cross. It's his deaths. That means he's having multiple deaths. Okay. So is verified in the language. So this was deliberate. Okay. Go look it up for yourself. Chapter number 53, verse number 9. It means not his death, singular, but it's deaths. The 3ms right here is the his. That's the third person masculine, masculine singular. That's the 3ms. The 3ms is whose death? It's his death. Okay, but deaths, not death, deaths. Well, are you being a stickler? What are you saying? Let's go back to the text so you can look at it and understand. He made his grave with the wicked. Okay, that means he's been joined up with the wicked, because that's where we are. We're in the land of the wicked. And with the rich in his deaths. Deaths. You've always dying. He's not just dying one time. He's always dying because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth, because the way that he's being killed is not, he's being killed for no reason. He's being destroyed for no reason because of the crimes of these people, because of the wickedness of these people. So it's not his death. So you can justify Christianity. They should put it in its original language, deaths, plural. Okay. Then you would say, well, then the he or his right here, it means he has plural deaths. You mean he has a whole bunch of deaths? Yeah, because the servant is not just one person. The servant is a people. Just like the Most High said that you are my witnesses, Yaakov. So he'll call Yaakov witnesses. So the Most High calls his people in the singular and in the plural. Okay. So it's not death, it's deaths. So that's another mistranslation or untruth. Okay. I wanted to show that to you so you can understand what Isaiah 53 is really talking about. I have down here the pleasure. I told you that the Most High gets pleasure out of what's going on. And we don't like that because it hurts our feelings, because we don't want him to take pleasure in it. But he has taken pleasure in it. And I'll explain the reason why. The Most High has taken pleasure in this because it's necessary. It pleased. That word pleased there is pleasure. Yahweh to crush him. But I just thought that they were crushed because of the crimes of these kings. Yes, because he used them with illness to see if he would present himself as a guilt offering. Yah has done everything he's done to us to see if he, this servant, this person, this group of people would present himself as a guilt offering, which is called an asham. If he does, he will see his offspring, his zerah, which we begin to study talking about. Zerah is the children. So this has nothing to do with the Christ in the New Testament. This has nothing to do with JC, because he doesn't have any offspring. Okay, he doesn't have any children. Children is literal children, not some imaginary people floating around in heaven. And he will prolong his days, okay, as a people, and at his hand, Yahweh's desire will be accomplished. Yahweh has intention for this servant. Okay, so I want you to understand when it talks about that JC died for your sins, he did not die for your sins. Okay, sins are not mentioned here. It's called guilt. It's called an asham. Okay, and I'm going to tell you about these offerings so you can get a better understanding. But this is what the Most High wants this servant to do. He wants him to acknowledge his guilt, but he has to present himself. So the Most High has put him in a position. That's why he's pleased, because Yahweh is pleased when someone says that I'm guilty. He wants us to put ourselves as a guilt offering to him, because if Yisrael does this, if this servant does this, he will see offspring. He'll be able to continue his family. If he does, he'll be able to prolong his days as a nation, as a people, because you have seed, you can continue. And at his hand, Yahweh's desire will be accomplished, because Yahweh's desire is for Israel to continue to grow. So let's talk a little bit about the offerings right quick. I have a few moments left. So the offerings that Yah has asked for are 5. They're called kamash. Kamash means 5. There's 5 type of offerings. Each one of these offerings are, in the book of Leviticus, and you can look at chapter number 1 all the way chapter number 5 if you want to know what these offerings are. So they are the whole burnt offering, okay, which is called an olah. We have the sin offering, which is called a kata. You have the guilt offering, which is the one we're dealing with, the one in question called an asham. And then you have the peace offering, the shalamim, right, to bring peace, and then the food offering, which we would call the mincha. Okay, so the Most High, according to Isaiah, is asking for this offering to be made, for this person to present himself as a guilt offering. Okay, so let me explain to you what a guilt offering is. So Yah is not looking for a whole burnt offering. He didn't ask to present that. He didn't ask him to present himself as a sin offering. So that disqualifies JC from the equation, because JC says, I come to be a sin offering. So Isaiah 53 doesn't ask for a sin offering. Yah says he needs to present himself as an asham, as a guilt offering. So let me show you what guilt is, because if this is the one that he wants, then this is the one we're going to talk about. So an asham offering is if someone sins, okay, because that's what offerings are made for. They're made for sins. It depends on what the sin is. If someone sins by doing something against any of the mitzvot, the commandments of Yahweh concerning things which should not be done, he is guilty. That's an asham. That's the offering that he wants. Even if he is unaware of it, and he bears the consequence of his wrongdoing. You can find that in Vayikra chapter 5, verse number 17. Vayikra is Leviticus. Okay, so according to this, and everywhere else, this is what he wants someone to offer themselves as an asham. I want you to say that you're sorry. I understand that you've sinned against me. I want you to understand that you've sinned against any of my commandments that you didn't even know about. When you and I came into this truth, we were totally unaware of it. We were unaware of what we have done. Any of the commandments, any. So if you stole something and you're unaware of the commands and you're guilty. If you broke the Shabbat and you didn't know about it for, 50 years and you didn't know about it, you're unaware of it. You didn't have any clue about the commandments. You're guilty. And it is still sin, but it's a different type of sin. It's a guilt sin. Okay? It's guilt. Everyone has guilt because everyone is sometimes unaware of some things that you do that you don't know. You say some things, you forgot you said it. We're human, right? So Yah makes provision for this type of offering. So in context, when in Isaiah 53 about this suffering servant, he's saying, I need him to present himself for an Asham. JC did not present himself as an Asham offering, people. Go ask any Christian. What did he die for? He said, they died for my sins. He died for my kata. He didn't die for kata. Not for us. Yah didn't ask for kata. Yah asked for an Asham. He asked for us to present ourselves as an Asham because you and I are unaware of what we've done against the commandments of the Most High. So this disqualifies JC. It disqualifies him. He's not going to continue his children. He doesn't have no kids. Okay. So what's the seed? What's the purpose of this? The purpose of this is the seed. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter number 30 tells us this. But you will return and pay attention to what Yahweh says and obey all of the mitzvot, the commands I'm giving you today. Because that was always the question, what should you do when you find out that you're unaware of what this is and it's in an Asham? Then Yahweh your Elohim will give you more than enough in everything you set out to do. He'll give you the fruit of your body, which is the seed. He'll give you the fruit of the livestock, which is the seed of the animal. He'll give you the fruit of the land, which is the seed of the land. It will all do well, for Yahweh will once again rejoice to see you do well, just as he rejoiced in your ancestors. However, all this will happen only if you Shema. That's the only thing that's going to, if you pay attention. Isn't this what Israel and Yaakov had asked his sons to come and pay attention to what I'm going to tell you? Tell you what's going to happen in the latter days. And what Yahweh your Elohim says, that's what you have to do, so that you will obey his commandments, his regulations, which are written in this book of the Torah. If you turn to Yahweh your Elohim with all your mind and all of your being, which is your desires. That's what he's looking for. When he talks about you be able to continue, remember that you'll be able to continue his seed, your offspring. It pleased Yahweh to crush him, who this servant, with illness, to see if he would present himself as a guilt offering, to see if he would say that he was sorry, to see that if he would bring it to his attention, so he'd have this awareness. I need to put you in a circumstance, in a position where I'm going to put you somewhere where you are going to have to start recognizing what's happening to you. I'm going to use the nations to crush you. I'm going to use their diseases so you can, when you come and read the Torah, you'll find out why you have the diseases you have. But if you do this, you and I will see our offspring, we'll see our seed. It will do a Deuteronomy 30. You'll be able to prolong your days. You'll live a longer life when you get back to your land. Because at this, Yahweh's desire will be accomplished. Yah has done this to us. Let me go back. In conclusion, after this ordeal, and this is the last two verses of Isaiah 53 that we went through today, he will see satisfaction. The kings are saying this is their final statement. After this ordeal, he will see satisfaction. After we present ourselves, after we go through the illnesses, after we're bruised, and after all these things. It says, by his knowing toil and labor. Okay, now Yah speaking. How do we know Yah speaking? I made it bold, where you have those quotation. By his knowing toil and labor and trouble. My righteous servant makes many righteous. It is for their sin, their awono, for their twistedness and their perversion, and he suffers. That's why we're suffering. Okay? Our exile is bad enough. But this right here, Yah believed it to be necessary to show you the difference between righteous and the wickedness. He believed it to be necessary so you and I would present ourselves to him and say that we're sorry. Therefore, I will assign him a share with the great, and he will divide the spoil with the mighty. He, for having exposed himself to death and being counted among the sinners. Well, actually, bearing the kata of many. So what does it mean to bear the kata? Is it on the cross? Or do we see a process of us bearing this? How are we bearing the sins of the nations, of the many? Are you and I encountering the offenders and the rebels on every hand, every day that you get up in the morning and go to work, walking in the street, in the grocery store? Where are they? They're all over the place. See, you and I don't know where we are. Okay. So this is what he's telling us. When he says you're gonna bear this, you're actually bearing the sin. We thought, well, it was on the cross. No, it's not. You are bearing it. Where you're living and you're sinning against the Most High and you're profaning his name by even being here, because you're bearing the kata. You're encountering the twistedness and the perversion. You see, we're very special people. Okay. So in that specialness, things have to be brought to our attention. So you are the suffering servant. That's who you are. You are the one who's been bearing the pain and the diseases and the illnesses. You're the one that the kings are talking about. When that time comes, that's what they're going to say. They're going to say those things about you. You see, in the last days, in the latter days, and that's coming. When that happens, you will be triumphant. You will be successful, Yisrael. You will be victorious because Yahweh's arm and his strength is going to be the one that's going to save you. No man can save you. Right now, you're oppressed. You're persecuted. You're hated. There's hostility. You're exploited on every level. It's the truth. That's the truth. That's the truth. So let's give Yah praise and let's give him honor. This is what's next for next week. We're actually going to be flipping into the pages of Shemot, which talks about the names, chapters 1 through 6:1, and we're going to go over all those offerings. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Shemot. No, we're dealing with Israel. We're dealing with our time in slavery. That's what you're going to deal with. We're going to deal with the Egyptian slavery. Okay. The Hanavi is the prophets. So we're going to talk about Yashayahu. He's going to be in chapter number 27 through 28 and 29. That's what we're looking at. So I hope that you guys were able to see this today, that you are the suffering servant. You are the servant of the Most High. It's not JC. It's you. Okay. It's been read wrong. It's been mistranslated. We've been lied to. Okay. So you have to, I'm so disappointed in the English text. I don't even feel like reading no more. I have to read it because I have to, put things together for those of us who are still reading English. But I don't like the text. I don't like it because they're lying. They're literally lying. They're changing words on purpose in order to fulfill that Christology, that study of Christ, and make you think that he died for you and he didn't die for you. There's nowhere in there talking about a kata offering. It was an asham. So it's no sin offering. It's a guilt offering, right? For something totally unaware. So if you looked at that and you looked at the sins that people say that they commit, the sins that they've committed, the sins they believe they're committed, are sins that are smoking cigarettes and drinking and doing some other things that they know that they have done. They already know that. So the sin that he's talking about right here, because it is a sin, an asham is something you're unaware of. Complete ignorance, unintentional. And you know that Christ didn't die for unintentional sins. He died for intentional, which makes it even worse. Because the Most High doesn't allow any innocent person to die for the wicked. Anything that's done on purpose, when we'll find out when we get in Leviticus, you're going to find out that there's no offering for anything that's done deliberate. Nothing that's ever committed against the Most High in deliberate rebellion against him is not forgiven. Is not. You see? So that's what it is. That's what we're supposed to learn today. Any questions, contributions, remarks? Praise be to the living Elohim. I'd like to tell us that we're going to have our class today. Our Hebrew class will be again today at 4:00. And I believe we're on lesson number 12. Hallelujah. Shabbat shalom to everyone.
Hallelujah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
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 Shabbat shalom.